Right now, we've got like what I'll call like real spring, like that transition from fall to spring fishing that's going on, where some days those fish are going to blitz these creeks. Sometimes they're going to head up these river arms until the mud comes or the cold weather comes. I'm going to go back about a month. The water temperature was about 52. Things started to kind of happen. We had some warm weather. The water temperature shot up to about 58 or so. We got some cold, we got some wind, we got some rain, and the water temperature plummeted back down to like 52, 53 again. Stayed there for a couple days. We had mud and colder water. Things changed. Well, we got a little bit of a warm up, and you could see the water in places started to clear up a little bit, and things started to kind of happen again. Water temperature got up to about 55, maybe 56, and then another round came through. Got that temperature back down again. I haven't been out this week. I don't think the water has warmed up that much. But that's kind of what we're dealing with in the early spring portion of what we've got going on. I know that I have had some success recently getting the biggest bait that I can get. And when I mean the biggest bait that I can get, I'm talking 8, 9, 10-inch gizzard shad.
That's using the size of the stripers I can.
Okay. And I know some of you, where's Mike? There's Mike. Mike and I went out, and we had some success on big bait. It seems like Gary went out, fished the exact same way that we fished in some similar spots. His big bait didn't get touched, but his, what were they, 4 and 5 inch thread fins? That's what he caught his fish on. So talk to me. Who's been out live bait fishing recently? Who's been out casting during the day? We're going to save the nighttime. Where are you nighttime boogers? There. We'll save you guys for just a minute, but let's talk about daylight fishing right now with bait right now. Like, has anybody been out? I know Ken, you guys pulled bait
Thursday morning.
Were you using boards and down lines and
All boards, nothing bigger than a quarter ounce.
okay?
And we got out probably, I would say, a half hour later than I probably would have wanted to. We had all 6 lines in, and by
Within 10 minutes.
within 10 minutes, we had our first and only fish.
Okay.
And for the next 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes, dead.
But like you said, we got out there late. They were blowing up in front of us, behind us, right next to us. And if we'd have been out there 30, 40 minutes ahead of time, pulling through them, I think it would have been much better. But they were up
What time?
But they weren't all
6:30 to 8:30.
But you should have been out at 6.
Yeah, we should have been pulling aboard by 6:30.
All right. What was the depth of water you were fishing?
Usually
It was
60 to 80 feet.
It wasn't the inward lines. It was all the deep water lines. They were not on the banks.
Wow.
What's that, bait?
We had some nice
No.
6, 7 inch.
But it wasn't a big 10.
They were
No,
Were they store-bought shiners or were they?
no, they were.
Who threw the net? Wow. Excellent. Excellent.
Oh, he can throw a pancake now, let me tell you.
I am so disappointed right now. There's a lady in the room.
All right. Well, that's contrary to what I would think would be going on right now. I would think that these fish would be up on the banks in the mornings, up on the points and things like that.
We were pulling boards a couple weeks ago. We were catching them right off the banks. I mean, we were pulling boards all the way up on the banks. And same time frame. It's an even as the sun's going down. It's at last light kind of time.
Main channel.
Backs Creeks actually. So one of the things that we find, so I live off Becky's, and one of the things that we find is like we get all this rain and stuff, and those creeks get all mudded up like that. It's a mess for a little while. Once that mud starts clearing out, though, that they is all up and piled up in the back of the creeks. There's a lot of like biological material left here that they're looking for. So.
What do you mean by the back of the creeks? How far back are you talking about?
All the way back, as far as your boat will go.
I caught bait in less than a foot of water the other day. I could actually see their fins,
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't, their fin wasn't out of the water, but their fin was causing a wake. And it's harrowing to think you're gonna get your boat stuck. But you got, hey, if you want the glory, you gotta take the risk, right?
As Chad says, we have no fish on Becky's Creek at all, so don't.
Yeah,
worry.
don't go in there.
Stony Creek doesn't hold things.
But the funny thing is.
Do you live back there?
About a week or so
No, I
ago,
go
with
back-
everything in the.
I go back there not to get fish.
Okay.
No, there is bait
Yeah.
jack in the
Now
back.
it's on gizzards, 12 inches.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's, everything is because of this water temperature fluctuation, everything right now, and the barometric pressure swings going from Jesus Christ, whatever. These fish are mixed up as we are.
Yeah.
I pulled 12-inch gizzards on downline and on its outside board, right against the mountain, all the way from R3, clean down into the, what we call fishtails, the other side of the dam, way back.
Gotcha. Okay.
Never hit a fish. Didn't show up for 2 or 3 fish out of the trees. Now, down in the trees, they thick, but they just want to.
Now, for some reason, I would agree, about a month ago, a good 3 weeks, maybe probably a month ago, we did fairly well 3 days in a row, right along the bank, pulling as close as I can get. You know, he'll be telling me, you're gonna get hung up, you're gonna get hung up. I don't care if I get hung up.
Right. But I think that might have been when we had one of those temperature spikes.
Probably.
Yeah, that was in between the rains.
Right.
It was right
Right.
before a heavy rain.
But then Walter got on the boat with me, we went downhill.
So, and I'm safe to say, I'm safe to ask this question because we do have a lady in our presence, and I know you won't answer the way that you want to answer. When do the Catfish Ken guided trips start happening?
There hasn't been a catfish this year.
But you know, that goes to show you, I mean, the fish are following bait like we are. This year on Blackwater, it's been so up and down. One night I'll look out, just like what John said, there'd be 200 fish circling the light. Bait, the next night, nothing. So, I mean, what's causing it, you know, you don't know. And that's the same with the fish. Some nights I'm out there and it's all you can catch stripers. The next night, I have to report a skunk. And it's like, what's going on?
I haven't had any luck at night at all. Been out a couple times, like nothing. So seeing stuff, but you know, you see them chasing, but then not catching.
Has anybody been fishing down lines? Smaller bait or bigger bait on down lines?
I have.
Any luck?
Smaller bait, anything from 3 to 6 inch thread fins or bluebacks, if you can find them.
Okay.
I have better luck right now, and the fish that I'm finding, the consistent ones to bite, they still down at 30 feet. And if you can find a 30-foot drop to 50, you know, that's where the brush really starts. If you start looking at this lake real close, from 30 feet up, there's not a lot of trees. Now, there's enough to keep a man trolling on his toes. But if you get after that 30-foot drop, and when she goes down to hit the 50, that's when the trees start popping up. And these fish are staging right along that drop line. And if you can find them, generally you'll catch a couple of them. Now, once you catch 1 or 2 out of that school, they're going to leave.
You're pulling bait down around that 30-foot mark,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Nighttime report, if you want to divulge. If you don't, you don't have to, but nighttime report.
I've been fishing anywhere from the bridge all the way to Mormons, using flukes and shallow rutting lures. Clown color is really good right now. And having pretty good success.
Points?
Points and
Lights.
no further than like, about halfway back in the creeks.
Okay.
Secondary points and main lake points.
And he's had better luck than I've had. Last year, I looked at my numbers and pictures and I was crushing them. But I think we're gonna get in a pattern right now, a good pattern, because it hit 60 at Magnum, then it dropped with this last little cold spell. But I think all these spells we've had, the fish are moving now. They're coming up upstream. So I saw the last couple of nights seeing some big fish.
So weather report's mid-80s next week. That water temperature is going to jump really
Yes.
quick.
Yes.
So,
So when is that gonna trigger the spawn?
When's the full moon? You're the full moon guy. When's the full moon coming?
Me?
Yeah, you're the one that always knows when the full moon is.
Oh, I haven't looked for a while, but I would think probably 3 more weeks, 2 to 3
So
more weeks.
that should trigger that's the full moon in May typically triggers the spawn, right?
April 23rd, next full.
That seems a little early then.
I can tell you the fish I caught Saturday was full of milk. I mean, messed up.
It's ready, yeah.
And it is, we've been seeing males, so where are the females? I mean, I've been getting big
Yeah.
fish and they're males.
Yeah, but they like bass. They come up, the males come up a whole lot earlier than the female. And all we getting right now, I hate to say this, but we just getting feeding fish. The LYs and the bluebacks, May the 15th to June the 15th, historically on this lake, that's when that stuff just comes to the bank in droves. Where you can pull out on the lake and it just sounds like something, like rain hitting the top of the mountain.
People
That's a different
Cinder
fishing
blocks in the
though.
water.
That's the really good fishing, in my opinion. Right now, this fish is just coming up, feeding like devil, getting ready for the spawn here in another 30 days or so. Their fall spawn where they try.
Yeah.
But we haven't got the good night fishing. That ain't here. Don't get disgusted with it until first of May or the last week of April. That's when that's gonna get
But from my
historically where you wear yourself out doing.
from my experience, the LY and the blueback spawn is so strong on the Blackwater side that's where you need to be. That's where you need to be. So Earl brings up a good point. Later this month, into May, and on into May, further into May, these fish are really going to get ganged up down around like the Craddock Shoals, down at the dam. Who's done that before? Like you may see them breaking, or you may see thousands. They may not be breaking, but you see thousands of them on your side scan. Who's done that before? That's awesome.
Now, it's something too to keep in mind, I'm sure you let people know this, Chad, because they'll get down there around that dam, around the log boom and stuff like that, and you'll see 2 acres of fish come up on the surface. But if you stand up in your boat and look, the water will turn milky. And what it is the big females are putting out their eggs and the males are milting. And you think they feeding and you can't make one of them devils bite. And there it is.
Something else on their mind.
It's a big difference. It really is. I've watched too, so.
So for some of our new folks, do you guys, the newer folks, have any questions about lures that you may want to use this time of year? Is that where? And let me just ask: Is that where you are in like your skill level right now, like casting, or some of the new folks, are you adept at throwing a net, getting bait? I know Ken and some of the other folks in here, they actually go and buy the shiners. The shiners work. They're jumbo shiners, right?
Yeah.
And they work pretty darn good.
The jumbo shiners work. So don't eliminate, if you can't throw a net, don't eliminate live bait fishing, because we do have some places here on the lake where you can go buy your jumbo shiners and they'll work just fine.
We have 3 places. Dwayne, once he gets set up, SML Tackle, and now the Duck Inn on Burnt Chimney Road. He has extra large.
Okay.
You need the biggest you could get.
Yep.
There's a shiner.
Yep.
Generally, they don't
Jumbos.
6 or 8 inches.
Yep. And everybody does everybody know how to set up your live bait? You've got your main line coming from your rod and reel. If you're fishing weighted lines, then you'll have your weight on that line. Then you'll have a barrel swivel or a swivel of some sort. Then you'll have your leader with your hook tied to it. Most folks, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm using live bait with weights down, I use a circle hook. Is everybody else fishing that live bait about the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
How long is your leader between the hook and your?
Depends on how big the bait is. If I have a really big, fast, aggressive blueback, I shorten that leash.
What is short? 5 feet, 10 feet?
Oh, no, 3 feet maybe
Yeah, really?
at the now the smaller the bait or the colder the water, I maybe lengthen that a little bit, but very rarely I don't think I'd ever go over a 5-foot leader. If I have a real big aggressive blueback, I'll chop that thing down to like 2 or 3 feet at
We've been using 20 feet on ours.
No, 20 feet.
Yeah, I'm talking about the leash on planer.
Oh, the leash on the planer board. If I've got big bait, depending, like if I'm going to run that, I'll stagger them off like my bank side planer board, I may only have 6 feet on that. But as it comes closer to the boat, and technically you're thinking the deeper the water, I'll give them a little bit longer leash.
Now, you don't think that barrel sinker is gonna scare the fish at all?
Ken, that barrel swivel is about that big, and that bait is about that big. That'd be like me looking at my plate saying, I'm not going to eat that piece of steak because there's a pea or a carrot on my plate.
You talking about the swivel or the sinker?
The sinker itself.
No.
Well, usually the board that's all the way against the shore has no weight or a very lightweight.
No weight.
And then you do heavier as they're deeper.
This water isn't clear enough to have that sinker
So
or weight
let me
value.
go back to your conversation earlier when you were out with Mike. You said you used a gizzard shad that big, and you said you had some luck. What did you catch on a 10-inch gizzard shad?
I'd rather not say. We were on Mike. Honestly, this is the way I do things. If I'm on somebody's boat, that's their story to tell. They're the captain of the boat. So if you'd like to share, you feel free.
Oh, I thought he was with you.
No, I was with him. I had the idea. Do I get credit for? No.
Because I was working, and he said, "What you doing?" And let me shift some things around.
Yeah.
I'll meet you at 3.
Yeah.
What was the question?
So the question is, I've never landed a striper on a gizzard shad that big.
Yeah.
So if you had some luck, what size fish are you catching with an 8 to 10-inch gizzard shad?
Big ones. I mean, I'm not going for these 24s.
So you're getting over 30 inches.
Yes.
I called him that day. I said, do you want to do a hero or zero trip? Because we knew we threw back some shad that were small, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
We kept only big shad. We were using big hooks.
Yep.
And we had 7 fish. 2 were under 30 inches. They were 28, and they were as fat as I am. And the 5 were over 30, and our biggest was 35 and a half inches, 22 or 23 pounds, 22 pounds.
22 pounds.
Yeah.
And you caught those in Blackwater?
Caught them all, every single one of them up the Blackwater. We put in at the Ponderosa Ramp. I don't even know if there's a Ponderosa Ramp, but we put in at the Ponderosa Ramp and we fished. No, I'm just kidding. But we knew it could be a good trip or it could be a zero trip, Mike, right?
Going fishing for
And that's the
records.
mindset that you have to think of. Like, if I'm going to use big bait, like this could be a really good day, or I'm going to enjoy Mike's company and we're going to sit there and lie to each other for about 3 hours of how good a fisherman we are.
So were they on down lines or?
We were fishing very shallow water. Not one single one of our lines had weight on them at all, did they?
No weights, and the biggest one came, the board was about that far off the bank. It was textbook. I mean, it was a whole crash it on top, slam it, rip it back. It's just, good dreams are made of.
And Mike, the way he fishes his boards differs from how I fish the boards. Everything is the same down to the hook. He uses circle hooks on his boards. I don't. I use a J hook. And I'm thinking about going the other way because they were so aggressive that day. I don't know.
But I did, when I saw the board move, I didn't tighten up right away. I did let them swallow it.
Yeah.
And again, you don't set the hook with the circle, but I did.
Just kind of come
I
tight.
did give them a few seconds before I really locked down on the reel and start pulling them in.
Yeah.
And I think we only lost, two maybe?
Yeah, I think we had 2 what I would call short strikes, right?
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
We had a really stellar hookup ratio
Yes.
that day.
Yes. I think we fished.
All the action on the bank?
No, we had 2 come off the back of the boat.
Right.
We had, and then it was a spread around. What do you have New Jersey to say? Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I won't put you on the spot.
No, say it.
Come on, Ken. Come on, Ken.
You keep the fish heads.
No, we didn't.
No. Strictly catch and release. We took some pictures, put them back.
That's right.
Slots.
We could have
slot
kept those.
session.
That's fine, but we could have kept those 2 28s. And in retrospect, I should have, because I have some friends that are counting on me to provide some fish meat next weekend, and I should have. That just means I got to fish a lot this week to satisfy my quota.
So how often are you doing the swing for the fences with the big gizzards versus yellowknives, thread fins?
Generally speaking, it's pretty much now about, maybe a month in the spring, mid-March to mid-April, and then in the fall, mid-October to mid-November. So it's kind of a narrow window.
Yes.
Yeah.
You gotta think too, something from way back. You were talking about big bait, really it ain't that big a bait when you talk about 8 or 10 inch gizzard in here.
Right.
So the state record come out of Leesville for us. When they autopsied that fish, it had 3 partially digested 14-inch carpet. Think about that. And it was still feeding.
It was still hungry.
Yep. So when you get up above that 30-pound mark, it's amazing what size fish that devil can swim.
Does anybody have, I definitely want to cater to the new folks in here. So if you have any questions, you've got not including me, you've got a plethora of knowledge in here and a plethora of resources. Ask away. There are folks in here willing to take you out or hop on your boat with you if you need help understanding your electronics, setting your electronics up, setting your boat up, because that is a key thing that often gets overlooked, is actually setting your boat up to fish live bait. Because if you have 2 grown folks in the boat, you got to learn how to dance together. You've got a fish on and you're trying to get the net, or you possibly could have 2 fish on and they go different directions. So there are some things, you're going to lose some fish, guys. I'm just going to tell you that right now. You're going to lose some fish when you live bait fish. When you're using big bait, I am extremely, and I think, Mike, we talked about this. When I use big bait on those Hero or Zero trips, I am ecstatic if my hookup ratio to bites is 50%. Because it takes a lot for them to get that bait in the mouth. The hook has to just turn exactly right to hook that fish. A lot has to go right for you to have success. I think we were more like 60 to 65%, maybe even closer to 7. I think we caught 7 fish on 12 baits. That sounds about right. So we were pushing almost 75 or 60 something, whatever. Math is hard. But ours was a little bit better. But just understand, when you're using that bigger bait, a lot has to go right. But man, when it does go right, holy cow, it's rewarding. You know?
I think he has a question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to ask this. My experience so far, I fish from the bank. I have a boat, but the boat is not a fishing boat. It pulls water skiers and
Oh, you're married, huh?
tubes. And I've got 2 teenage kids. Okay, so I fish from the bank. I was hoping, as I progress here, to be able to learn about planer boards and downriggers and fishing for stripers out on the lake. But for now, I live bait fish from shore, and I cast. Now, I've got a nice lot right along the main channel there, Hickory Point. I don't know if you know if I'm calling it the right nomenclature. But if I could take one thing away from the meeting today, it would be, what is your suggestion as far as casting? What deep diving crankbaits, shallow moving Rapalas, I don't know, a brand, give me some idea of what's.
Hit stick. Berkeley hit stick, number
15.
15.
A lot of hooks, so be ready to.
Okay, I'm used to fishing things with like 3 treble.
Yeah, that's
it.
Don't overlook.
6 to 9 feet.
We got a couple, there's a couple articles on the website that folks in this room have helped write that talk about casting and using the hit sticks, the paddle tails.
Okay.
Yeah.
And don't overlook just a regular run of the mill. You can buy them already pre-rigged. What are they called? The Storm Wild Eye. That is the easiest thing. You cast it and you retrieve it. You don't have to do any action to it.
Great swimming
3-inch
action.
or 4.
Yeah.
It's a door prize tonight.
Yeah, it's a door prize tonight. We might rig it up for now.
You have a light up your dock?
I have a dock and we have lights, but I don't
How
use
deep?
them to.
How deep is the water off your dock?
Well, I have, there's 2 docks, one.
Give me your dock location. I'll come by and graph it for you.
I tell you what, it must be at least 20 feet deep.
Oh.
We'll be right over.
Get this video last week. 40-inch striper on my green light at 16 feet water. And I caught it big ass.
Are you there?
You hooked him. You didn't land him.
Well, I didn't land because.
Keep them on.
Details.
I set my drag. That son of a took off. I'm set drag and he went unstitched. Oh, my sorry.
Joe said that I sounded perfect if you put a light in. I didn't think we saw that thing on the dock.
You'll never go out your boat.
I never got the.
Yes, sir.
I'm kind of a dumb luck fisherman, and so I do some trolling with a Sutton Silver Spoon, and I got pretty good success with that. When you're casting, now I know I've done some live bait fishing out of my boat, and you can be very successful. And listen, everybody, I know the bigger fish probably come with the live bait. And but when you're casting, or really any type of fishing, are you going looking for the fish before you drop your baits, or are you kind of just going and points and stuff that you know that are successful?
It's a good question. It's a good question. Do y'all mind if I'll answer it the way that I go about it. I haven't been fishing this lake as long as some have, but I have historical reference points that usually do well for me.
On the Roanoke.
On the Blackwater side. And I gravitate to those places, but I always look for the bait. So if I do go to one of my spots and my graph is empty, I'm probably going to a different spot. And I think right, wrong, or indifferent, the live scope has made us impatient fishermen. So, you pull up to a spot, you're scanning, there's no fish, no bait, I'm on to the next place. So
It's easier to catch fish when you find them.
yes, that's right. And
Cruising along and looking at the fish, and after 30 minutes, I just start fishing.
Well-
I'm tired of looking.
and Tommy brought up a good point earlier. He said, I'm fishing from the bridge to Mormons. And I won't say every, but there are fish at just about every point along the way and even in between, because the water temperature and the water conditions are suitable to them now. Now, if you ask Tommy in mid-June, where are you fishing? He may say the same area, but the fish aren't going to be spread out. They're going to be concentrated in the areas that are suitable for them. And it's not going to be 10 feet and less at that point. I would have to say you're probably catching fish right now 10 feet and less, maybe 15 feet and less. When it comes to June, those fish kind of might be in those same areas, but they're going to be out. You know, so if you're targeting that 10 feet and less, you're going to say this lake doesn't have any stripers anymore, but they're behind you in the boat that afternoon or that whenever.
In June, they seem to be closer to deeper water. They just run up.
Yep, they'll run up, get their food, and get back. It's a comfort thing.
Don't, I mean, I know there's guys that fish artificial, but I'm a North Carolinian, so I'm not up here every day. I fish artificial because I'm too lazy and I had a bad shoulder last year and just couldn't throw a net, but I've caught a lot of fish in Gills Creek and Blackwater off of umbrella rigs. Run them off.
No shame in that either. I think a lot of people say, oh, well, that's not really
A lot of
fishing.
people are pulling Alabamas now with just as much luck as the big umbrellas.
And those Alabamas aren't as heavy, so you could actually clip them on planers
Oh, yeah.
and run them with your trolling motor.
Trees like the
Yeah, and they're not as expensive to lose as the big, you know.
Hang on to them.
I saw somebody, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I was wondering what everybody's expecting if we get water temperature up in the 80s and lows for 60s next week, which we're supposed to have, if it really warms up. What would you be expecting to be the change in terms of where we're going to find them right now?
You'll be a vampire and you'll go out after it gets dark and you'll just listen.
They'll be on the bank.
Yeah,
And you fish, you get your lure, whatever you want to fish with, as close to the bank as you can.
Top water.
Yeah. top
2
water.
hours before sundown and 2 hours after sunup is best time. And next week, when we have that temperature of 80 degrees, the water's gonna get 60 plus. It's that 2 hour zone before and after is gonna be amazing.
And if you don't want to go out at night, first thing in daylight, first couple hours, all the points, main lake points, they're there.
Yes,
until the water gets warm.
you could see fish busting then in groups. Like that kind of maybe breaks that, gets that technique going.
Now more up in the creeks or towards main channel points, so what would I be?
Wherever the bait is.
Yeah.
Think like the bait.
You'll hear it.
The bait, slap the bait.
You'll hear them
Yeah.
slapping.
The
It'll sound
general
like
rule,
crickets.
if you find bait, those stripers aren't gonna be very far.
Exactly.
And they gotta eat sometime.
Most of
And
the
you'll see the bait early in the morning. It'll be up and around.
And my experience, I agree with Sean, and I don't know if you picked up on it. If you can get that lure, that top water lure, within 6 inches of the riprap, you'll catch that fish at 12 inches off the riprap. If you get out to 4 feet and you don't have a hit, you're probably not gonna get one.
Go back in and recap.
They're right there on the riprap looking for the shad. And when they hit, right there in that shallow water, it's unreal. It's like a bomb went off in the water.
See, I've heard all of you talk about that for a year now. I haven't experienced it yet, but.
You gotta get out there at night.
I dig and I do, so I'm fine with pulling boards, and I'm successful with it relatively, but, yeah, I haven't been able to experience that, and that's what I want to do.
And what I would suggest is find a section close to the house and go out in the daytime and learn that bank, look for a place that doesn't have overhanging trees
Yes.
and stuff that you get hung up in. And just find a place where you can, the closer you can put the nose of your boat to the bank and cast parallel, the better, because if you cast it to the shore, number one,